This is a story of how we went back to a save in FM24 and helped win the lot. No, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Let's set the scene. It's FM24, and we've forgotten to finish a save. If you look at the playlist, this is the last game ever filmed for the Paris 13 Atletico non-league to legend save. So there was only one thing left to do, and that was to go back in time and go and import the FM23 save file and give Marco Canna, Makoku, and my Wonder Kids one last shot of redemption to win the Champions League. This was the last game filmed, a French Cup final we lost to PSG, and it only came a couple of days after our first ever semi-final appearance in the Champions League, and after winning the first leg, we got battered by Manchester United. So it's time to sit back, relax, break down the few seasons it took us to turn a team of Wonder Kids, a team we spent years building on FM23, and how on Football Manager 2024, we got them to win the lot. This is the story how Paris 13 Atletico went from a nobody to the best team in the world. So we rejoin at a very interesting moment of the save. If you want to watch it all back, I'll be linking the full playlist to this series. But we join in a year that just after losing the league by 1 point, we have gone on to beat PSG for the first time in the league. It was basically a foregone conclusion, but surprisingly, this is where the content stopped with this save. That means we have a team that is ready to go and dominate France, and a team that looks to win the Champions League and be recognised as one of the world's best. Problem being, we have a handful of players that are great, but they're not world beaters. So it's over to the transfer screen to let you know who we brought in for the 2033-34 season. So in 2033-34, we needed world-class Wonder Kids that would develop into elite talents to be world-class. We're not yet a club that is recognised in bringing in the absolute best. However, we are a club that have sellable assets, and as you can see, the likes of Marco Canna, Martin Salamo, who had bags of potential in the save by memory, all went by the wayside. If you have a look at the schedule, we played 4-3-3, and let's recap a season that was utterly fantastic. We started the league fantastically, not losing a game, however underperforming our XG massively and not putting chances away. So what we did is we loaded up a 4-2-4, and well highlighted by this Paris 13 Atletico versus PSG game away from home, it clicked us into gear. It transformed us from a side that was really good in France to a side that was capable of winning the lot. It was a system that took us to Champions League glory. It was fantastic, it was great fun to use, and this was the mark in the sand that the save was turning. We had a Wonder Kids that were developing world-class midfielders in Barella, and we had Makoku who was banging in goals for fun. Hopefully, this all equaled out to us dominating and winning the Champions League this season. Does it? Well, let's go recap that. But as you can tell from this result, we were likely winning the league yet again in the season after coming back to this save. As you can see from the league form from this PSG game, we went on an amazing run, only dropping results in the late stage of the season as we were rotating for Europe. It was actually a very non-common and unconvincing end to the season for us. But as you guys can see, we were eventually crowned champions, getting to the 88-point mark and scoring 111 goals for in the league, being absolutely clinical and highlighting we are fast becoming the best team in France. However, What was the Champions League like in 2033-34? We were being judged if we could turn this non-league club into Champions League glory. Well, let's go recap what was a bit of an interesting season over in Europe. So the league phase started off well, and it was capped off by a great win against Inter away in Italy. Hopefully a hallmark of things to come, and to highlight that we had a real shot of winning the Champions League this season. We made the semi-finals last year, so where were we going to be in a few months' time? Hopefully, it was going to be in the final and fighting for all that glory. But, just maybe, it wasn't our time. And mixed in with a loss to United yet again over at Old Trafford, who knocked us out in the semi-final last year. This was a group stage game though, thankfully. And our poor form that came into fruition in the back end of the league, you can kind of get what I'm going to get at. We had a tie over in Italy, and well, lads, it didn't go the absolute best. And as you can see here, the 4-2-4, even though it scores a lot of goals, sometimes just doesn't do the business. And in the round of 16, we had a shock defeat to none other than Napoli. And as you can see, away in Italy, we got dominated. 18 shots 9 to our 7 shots 1. Napoli were the better side, put in a proper Italian performance, and in the end, it was a goal from Bentancur that was the difference in the first leg. As much as we tried in the second leg, back in our own stadium, with an XG of 2.24 and 13 shots and 60% possession, it wasn't our day. Barella missed a penalty early doors, which kind of signalled how it was going to go, and then we weren't able to overturn a 1-goal deficit and 2 goals on aggregate. A good save by Terrius, and then a goal from Gradiskelia, can never pronounce his name, that really put us to bed. We tried as we might, and a corner from Bakayoko was flicked back in by him on the rebound, and Lucas Chevalier with a great finish, the wonder kid, but it wasn't enough to see us through. So in 2033-2034, we won the league, we played a system that was different, and the 4-2-4 faltered. Is it going to be the same system next year for 2034-2035? Will we make it back to the semi-finals of the Champions League? And are we even close to being good enough for being world class? Well, let's go find out. In 2034-35, we made some signings and some decisions that transformed us from just being a really good side in France to the best team in French football. This season, we were a team that achieved 92 points, our highest points tally to date. We only lost 2 games this season, both to PSG and Monaco. We won 30, we scored 123 goals for and 24 against. But what you're asking is, how many goals did Moukoko score this year? Well, he didn't. 123 million, which became 131, came in from our Nasri. And as much as we loved Moukoko, and as much only a couple seasons ago, he went for 43 million, we had depth up front. We had a striker earmark that could be just as good as him for a lot cheaper, and we needed the money to go and bring in world-class midfielders or wonder kids that had world-class potential. And sometimes in a save, it hurts to do the unthinkable, but your star man just needs to go. Moukoko, it was good fun. We also had a big bid coming from Maxime Chevalier, who was playing with us for many a seasons and one of our main starters out wide. Physically a specimen, and he could whip a ball in too. But when Arsenal came calling for 67 million, there was no way we're going to pass that up. And what that allowed us to do, ladies and gentlemen, and that was allowing us to spend 148 million. But who replaced Moukoko? None other than Matteo Milo. He went and grew into being this good only a few seasons later. He was someone that transformed the save. He allowed us to pick up a world-class talent, even though when we picked him up, he wasn't as good as this, but a world-class talent that was emerging, and he turned into one of those pacey hitmen that you dream about on The Last Man. He's now a regular for Italy. He scored goals for fun, and in that first season for us in a Paris 13 Atletico shirt, he got 20 goals and 23 appearances, but more importantly, he scored 11 goals in the Champions League. Other signings was Mendy, who is now unfortunately a coach. I can't show his stats, but he's still world class in the database. We also signed Sadi, who turned out to be a flop for 38.5 million. Yeah, he looked like he was going to be fantastic. He was just never, like, he wasn't a flop. He just never went on with it. We signed Mudryk at the time. Don't ask me why, but we did. But guys that you need to think about that we signed are guys like Alberto Santoro we signed, and he turned into a very good backup player for us. Kayed El Sayed, the heir to the Mohamed Salah throne, came in for cheap, and with those physicals became that Salah regen, that guy off the bench, the guy that could produce that moment of magic. And he had spurts throughout his time here where he went and was the main guy for us when Matteo wasn't doing the business. Other guys here that were fantastic that are worth mentioning, Antonio Figueira never got to hit his potential, but came in from minute one and was looking like a wonder kid for the ages. You had guys like Lewis Hutchins, who in our last season, as you can tell, became a first-team regular, but as an 18, 17-year-old coming from Germany, was raw but full of talent, and have a look how good his mentals became. This is what the money allowed us to do, and the money was fantastic, and it allowed us to transform this save into something that was next level and allowed us to become that little bit better, to have youth that could develop into world-class talent, and to go and buy players that could impact now in Mendy and Sadi, even though he didn't stick around for too long. Our best starting 11 contained guys like Luis Fernando, who's still here at the club today. We had guys like Matteo Milo, who just signed Mendy. Sadi came in, picking at the back, who is at Newcastle in this save now, and Inguez, more importantly, Hector Inguez, who's been a stool of the save and has become very good over his time. What this meant is that we had a team that was world class and a team that maybe, just maybe, could go on to win the Champions League. Well, let's go recap it because of what it's all about. Was this the time for us to finally win the UCL just after we sold Mokoku? Well, the opening stages of the Champions League went well. On the opening day, we had wonder kid Finson score against Arsenal and kick us off to winning 3-1 against one of the teams that looked like being favourites for the Champions League. It was hopefully a marker in the sand and a moment to go, we are good enough to be one of the world's best. Milo scoring in his Champions League debut for us. It looked like we had a team that really could go deep. Right the wrongs of last season where we got, unfortunately, FM'd by Napoli, and it looked like we were a team that could make it back to the semi-final of the Champions League beyond. And when you look at how the Champions League went, we went pretty well amongst all metrics, even drawing to Manchester United, something we weren't able to do in the last 2 seasons. It gave us a lot of potential hope. It was kind of short-lived as Galatasaray absolutely FM'd us, but we made it through to the Champions League knockout stages, and well, let's go and recap that. In the round of 16, unfortunately, we drew Man City, and we do not have great memories of going to England and to Manchester. But as you could see on screen, Milo scored after he won the ball back high up the pitch to make it 1-0, but unfortunately late doors, conceding in the 37th minute to be 1-1 against Manchester City. As you can see from the top left of the screen though, the game was fairly even, and this was a moment where we really thought, ooh, we've developed into a side that can be capable of producing big performances away from home. Now the question was, could this team in this system produce a magical moment in France to beat one of the favourites? Well, did we? Let's go find out. Short answer, yeah. Yeah, we did. 3-0 winners at home, 2.32 XG, Luis Fernandez going nuclear, and Mr. Finson creating everything from that right-hand side, who is still part of the team and still looks world-class on the save. I will say that I am going to recap the full Champions League winning squad for you at the end of the database, or at the end of this YouTube episode as well. The goals that took us into the next round of the Champions League were as followed. Fernando on the ball, driving the whole way. Milo, the poacher, the man that transformed the save with the goal. It was out wide to Guda, who found Finson, who cut it there to Luis Fernando, and he swept one home, the Brazilian international. But for a long ball to a tall winger, to Milo, to Finson, back to Fernando, first time finish, it was free, and City were beat, and we were off to the next round. And after beating one of the favourites, were we now the team to beat? Are we now the favourites for the Champions League? Probably not, but we're a team that no one wanted to play. Unfortunately, though, some hangover hanged around, as it should, it's a hangover, right? Hanged around with us in the Champions League. And as you can see, we drew Atletico Madrid, and before we even got to home, the tie was basically over. 3 goals and a very non-inspired performance left us languishing with a round of 16 exit. And unfortunately to report, there was not much else we could do about it. As much as we tried in the second leg, as you can tell from the stats, we created 2 XG, and at home we were a pretty good side in Europe. We just weren't able to overturn a 3-goal deficit. It was unfortunate, but yet again, in the big moments and in the big games, especially away from home in the Champions League, we just don't have the quality to put our moments away. We don't have the players that can stand up when the opposition have their moments, because world-class teams will still have a period of where they will dominate the game. And unfortunately, we're just a team that is a little young, needs a little bit of development, and a couple of sprinkles of world-class talent away from being able to deal with those moments and being able to win the Champions League. I think we got the basis of a really good squad though. We won the league, we looked really good in France, and heck, we beat Man City, and we didn't lose to Man United for the first time in the Champions League, and we've played them 3 times in the last 3 seasons. So there's definitely some positives to take. But was this maybe a missed opportunity against a team like Atletico? Yeah, it probably was. 20-35-36, and we improved again as a team. The Wonder Kids developed, the system became more familiar, and it was the invincible year in France. Have you ever gone undefeated in FM? Let me know in the comment section, and give this video a like and subscribe because I've gone back in time to show you how this was done. But yeah, 102 goals for, 22 against, 4 draws against PSG away, Marseille at home, Monaco away, and Lyon at home. Outrageous performances from the boys. And the system was the same. It was still 4-2-4. But unlike previous years where we just didn't have the quality to score the goals, or, we'll cap the occasional FMing loss, we found ways to turn them into draws. And we found a team and a system and enough quality to really make sure that in every single domestic game, we were clinical enough or smart enough to not go and get FM'd and give away an invincible season. But if you finished invincible, could you win the FA Cup? Or the FA Cup, the Champions League? Well, maybe you could, because check out what happened. Before you check out the results of the Champions League, we have to talk about transfers. As you can see on the right-hand side, Picken went to Newcastle. He was a very good centre-back, but we needed an elite talent, or we needed that centre-back that just was a little bit better in the system. That ball-playing, covering centre-back, where Picken was more a 6'6" monster. I do love my big tall man. If you watch the Sunderland save, you will know all about this. But yeah, Tushimendi went to Al Hilal for profit. Tariq was another one. He looked pretty good, but he wasn't that next level world-class centre-back. Was he the guy to win you a Champions League? maybe if he had the right talent around him, but for us, he wasn't that guy, and we sold him on to Juve. Noah Sirocco, our backup goalkeeper who was playing at the time, we let him go to the French international, and it was time to go and make sure we were giving the right guys the right amount of game time. And what that meant is that we cut down a squad that was very heavy and had a lot of players in it, and went and made sure we had a narrowed selection of wonder kid talent and world-class talent in the squad. As I mentioned, I will give you what the full squad looks like at the end of this video. William Bellon came in as that defensive midfielder of oozing of quality to really shore up the 4-2-4. Have a look how good the Mexican is. He is fantastic mentally with great anticipation, physically an absolute monster, and could play many a role in the backline as a shorter centre-back covering, a defensive midfielder, or if ever needed, upper line as well, getting in and further around the box. We also needed another striker to fill out the coffers. And well, Marco Mempelli was that guy, a sensational world-class Italian talent to go and potentially partner Matteo up front, who we saw previously last season. As an Italian, to see Italian strikers come out is beautiful in FM, and I haven't seen a generation of strikers from Italy like this in any other save. He had great natural finishing, great dribbling, great passing technique and vision, and he was physically a monster with perfectionist personality. He was someone that we will use either in the league or in the Champions League, either starting when needed or off the bench to change a game. And as you can see, he came in and he kind of interjected himself slowly into the squad, but produced moments of absolute glory and magic. And Marco Mempelli was one of those that took us to the next level. So with 2 signings and cutting a lot of the fat, and we had a narrowed down, really hyper-focused squad of elite players and world-class talents. Was it good enough to win the Champions League? Did we finally have the right blend? Let's go recap it, shall we? Well, it didn't look like it with opening day defeats to Manchester United. As you can see here, back to losing in Old Trafford again. We played them for the 4th time in a row. And losing in a game at home to Dortmund, and in a game we were very poor in. Is the system cooked? Is it over? Are we going to be able to go on a run? Mercifully, though, we went on a better league phase roll, beating AC Milan 5-0 and winning other games as well. It was up to us if we were going to be good enough to turn it around. The system is good enough, proven by this game, and proven by the fact we were going undefeated. The players on their day were good enough, but in the big moments, we just seemed to be mentally scarred from seasons gone previously. And well, if we could get over that, we could have been a really fantastic side. And well, as you can see, the goals flowing in here against AC Milan, players that you've seen us bring in like Del Vecchio and Hutchins all combining, we were building towards something. Was it this year? Well, let's go and recap that knockout run, and let's go see if we were able to turn the corner and become a contender once more. Low Tech Damo. This is a low tech channel. Just applaud that we came up with a way to not spoil. We got to the Champions League semi-final, beating Atletico 2-0 and 2-1 over a home and away tie. It was one that we were able to right the wrongs of last year and beat them, and we probably should be with our team. We then got a world-class Liverpool who were hot favourites for the Champions League. We bet them over a crazy tie. We won 3-2 and 3-1. Spurs, though, were winning their first title in the save and just took us to the full 90 minutes away in England. It was 0-0. It was all to play for over in France. Was this team that was storming towards being invincibles, that was developing into a juggernaut of world football, that had wonder kid talent that would leave them a dominating force for years upon years to come? Was this team ready to take the jump, to right the wrongs of a couple years ago and make their first Champions League final? Well, let's go find out. In France, first highlight, Del Vecchio on the run. Guaita outride on the right, cuts it to Finnison. We're 1-0 up here in the Champions League semi-final. Is it our time, boys? Maybe, just maybe it is. Del Vecchio has lost out in the 52nd, and that is a finish, and we are 1-1. And, well, this game is on a knife edge. On come the changes, on come the under-wonder kids, and on come the players that could make the difference. Is it going to be Fernando? Is it going to be Finnison? Is it going to be Matteo? Is it going to be Malipo? Who's it going to be to fire us into the Champions League final? Well, just maybe it is going to be Finnison and Guaita and Del Vecchio with a deflected effort, and in the 63rd, it was 2-1. It's not over though, boys. William Bellon found Finnison, and the world-class winger popped one in the top bin. A guy that has been here for many a seasons put us towards the final. Moving forward though, Finnison picked it up. Del Vecchio from the middle of the park scores yet again. An inspired performance from the maestro in the middle of the park, and it was 4-1. Fernando and Pjanic, one of the youngsters that were here that we have not covered, made it 5. And the icing on the cake to send us into the Champions League final with a 6-1 win, it was Finnison in the bottom bin. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are off to a Champions League final. And well, let's go recap exactly what happened there. A Champions League final against none other than Real Madrid. They still had Scalvini on their books. They still had Will Burchell, who we tried to sign many moons ago up front. Yeah, he's that good. And they had other players that were outrageous, like Camavinga. And back in the day, Moretti was a world-class talent on Football Manager as well. They had a really, really good team. And this was a team that we were fighting with to win the Champions League. Was it our time? Could we tackle the best of the best when it comes to the Champions League? Or was the juggernaut that is Real Madrid the team that could only stand in our way? Let's go and find out. First highlight in the Champions League final. Dosu, our man that's been here forever, finds Fernando with the short corner. Back to Dosu. Out to Sadi. Into the bar. And Finson's effort is blocked. Early signs for Atletico, for Paris 13 Atletico. And look, maybe we can get one on top of Madrid here early. Poor corner in, but warning shot from us at them. A long ball though from Turbin. Dude heads down. Camavinga, this is where Madrid can be good. And Camavinga going down this left-hand side. Del Vecchio wins it. Are we going to go on the break? No, we've turned it over. And it's Will Bushell to Andreas. And well, we know how good he is on FM. And unfortunately, the Champions League, we are 1-0 down. It's an unfortunate time to be here. A corner now to Madrid. Honey Hall with the claim. Can Kim produce a moment of magic? Ínguez. Good squeeze from Madrid, and Ínguez runs into a cul-de-sac. Bit of pressure on the keeper. We've turned it over again. And Fabio Moretti, here he is. Madrid really starting to ooze that quality and prove why they're the world-class team and not us. Camavinga now, beating one, hits it. Kim saves and keeps it at 1-0 in the Champions League final. Andreas with the following corner. Moretti's top of the box. Back to Andreas, who looked offside to me. And the highlight will be over. Half-time. Madrid in the white with a 1-0 lead. Can we see a resurgence from the Paris 13 Atletico boys? Marcelo, the wonder kid, picks it up in the middle of the park and drives down this left-hand side. Andreas' ball finds Fabio Moretti, and inside 30 seconds since half-time, the mountain becomes worse, and Real Madrid are 2-0 to the good. It's going to be an almighty comeback for us here today. Suelo's ball in, cleared. Luis Fernando, oh, it's just over the bar from the world-class Brazilian. Moretti now running down this side. El Sayed, the wonder kid from Egypt, finds Will Bellion, loses out, tries to win it back, does win it back. Referee wants him, And it's a red card. A red card for not even a really major shirt pull in an area of the field where no counter-attack was starting. That's a little dubious, don't you think? I don't know if that one's warranted, boys, and it still hurts me to this day. I remember screaming on stream about that being a red, but anyhow, I'll let you be the judge. Is that a red card? Maybe it's a professional foul and he has to go, but I think in a Champions League final, a little bit of game sense from the referee would have been sufficient. Anyhow, 10 men, we've got to go attacking and put the balls to the walls, as they say here in Australia, and we have to try and get a goal. Finson, the hero of the semi-final, hits one, and that one's over the bar too, unfortunately. It doesn't seem to be our day. With 10 men and 3 at the back, we try to get this goal, and we try to win it on the secondary press, but we turn it over again. And Andreas, who's had a pretty good final, finds Marcelo. Big moment here. A third would be the sealer. Moretti now, and it wasn't far away. Moretti, not Moretti. Andreas' ball back stick now. It seems to be all Real Madrid. This final is a foregone conclusion. It doesn't look like we're coming back in this one. And in the 87th minute, Madrid had one more chance. Marco Mempelli looked like scoring, but Turbin and the bar did enough. It would have gave us great enjoyment. However, by memory, and it stings with me, that Madrid had one more chance. And it was a long ball that was won by Malu, picked off by Will. Andreas and Will Bushel combined, and one of their substitutes sealed the deal, and Chergui putting in the sealer. It was 3-0 Real Madrid, and it was Champions League over. And in the final, with a red card to Bellion, a 5.9 from Suelo, who was one of the best left-backs I've ever used in FM, it has to be said, it was a poor performance. By the stats, we were in the game. 14 shots, 1.58 XG. We weren't able to do the business. And to be fair, without Kim Hunnehall in net, who is a world-class keeper and works for SI, so he gens out in everyone's saving FM24 and FM23, has developed into an enormous beast in net. And without him, it probably would have been a lot more. But yeah, in 2035-36, we made it to the big dance, the biggest game of the lot. And unfortunately, the young kids faltered, but hopefully they'll be better for the experience. Bring us to the current season and the current state of play. We weren't invincible this year in the league, but we achieved 93 points and only conceded 18 goals. Our biggest leak in this save has definitely been in those big European games we find a way to concede. But today, we had ourselves a good old day, or a good old season. Today, we had a good old season. 18 goals, only conceded 104-4. And, well, let's have a look at the transfers from this season to really highlight what was done. We made some signings and we made some sales. Not too much because the squad was in a really good depth. We had Sadi, who went out for 103 million, and then the rest, really not much happened. It was just too much money to not. We signed Alberto Castillo in the middle of the park as a backup option to really boost the club's homegrown coffers for Champions League, and because on paper he actually is quite good physically and got great determination and pretty good technicals. 39 million seemed to be the play, and Emil Jacko on a free. Might arguably be the best free signing in the world. We signed Emil Jacko to come play left back, and that allowed none other than Inguez to play centre back. Jacko actually played centre back for us, which I think I should have played him at left back looking at him, but we played Suelo out at left back, and it's probably because Suelo was only natural at left back. But yeah, we got a world-class guy that was this good and transformed us to having that elite defensive presence to really make sure we weren't conceding the goals. This was the biggest area of the field that we were struggling in. He was at FC Gornenging. Yeah, I can't pronounce names. You're going to get used to that over the channel. from the Eredivisie on a free. Look how good he is. And well, with those signings and with those Champions League, with those stats across the league, and that little goals conceded, we did lose a game to Monaco, who, by the way, finished on 90 points. The league was not a foregone conclusion this season. Monaco will look really good. We were able to go on a run in the Champions League again. Was it our year? Was it our time? Let's go recap those few games in the Champions League that really decided our fate in charge of Paris 13 Atletico. In the Champions League, we went undefeated all the way to back-to-back finals, also playing against, if I remove my webcam, Real Madrid in the semi-final. And well, after losing 3-0 to Real Madrid, we're able to put them to bed. Our run contained drawing to Milan away, beating Arsenal at home, beating Spurs, who we played in the semi-final last year away from home, beat Juve in the round of 16, beat Atletico Madrid yet again in the quarterfinal, and then against Real Madrid scoring 3 to win 3-1 away and to beat Madrid 4-0 at home. We have built a team that is outrageous, a team that is undefeated in Europe, and a team that only lost one game in the whole league of the French Ligue 1. I don't even know where I was going with that. Anyhow, we're just going to leave it in there, boys. You love a little bit of a blooper. It's low maintenance FM. You got to love it. But yeah, look, a team that was outrageous. We had a final, though. Back-to-back years. Was it our time? Let's go find out who we played in the final and if we were champions-elect. The team standing in our way was none other than Bayern Munich. They had a wonder kid called Sori Barry who was this good and world-class. There are just so many highly talented players in this starter base. They had Sesko up front, who at 34 was still banging him in for fun, deemed a legendary striker. Musiala was out in the hole, but my personal favourite from their team was this guy called Chanel Kayembe. Look how good of a legendary winger at 29 years with 100 caps for Germany. This was going to be a task nearly as hard, if not harder, than Real Madrid last season. They also had Seaman in goals and they had Nagelsmann still in charge. So it wasn't like it was easier because it was Real Madrid. In fact, it was probably slightly harder. It was Bayern Munich. It was Paris 13 Atletico. It was the Champions League final for the second year in a row. Do we win it? Let's go find out. Our first highlight in the Champions League final comes in the 33rd minute. Emil Jacko has been fantastic in the league since he signed from the Eredivisie, driving forward. Luis Fernando now drops in. Bellion, who got red carded in last year's final. Finson loses out. And it's a mistake, and Luis Fernando probably should have scored. A mistake at the back. Are we going to get another opportunity in this Champions League final? We weren't able to score in it last year against Real Madrid. Seaman taking some time off the clock, and he throws one out there to Macias, and he looks to play one down the line. Chanel, Musiala, over the top. It's Benjamin Sesko, and from one end we've missed, and down the other end it is a goal for Bayern Munich, and we are 1-0 down in the Champions League final yet again. Post-halftime, though, in the 61st minute, Suelo picks the ball up. He looks for Finison, finds Bellion, ball into Fernando, finds Pjanic off the bench, and the man off the bench scores, and it is 1-1. We are back in this game, and it is a moment that will give us much joy. They've disallowed it for offside. He was offside. Was he really? Well, because we're watching it back and we're not doing it as a live video of the live game, unfortunately we've already played this, he was deemed offside, and as you can probably tell from this angle, even though it's pretty horrid to try and tell from this, he is 1.5 feet offside. We thought we were back in the Champions League final, but unfortunately it was not our time. Yeah, it's going to be that final again, isn't it? Another oh-so-close, oh-so-maybe moment in the save. It's got that feel. But 78th minute, Suelo and Fernandez combined. And Jacko out to Iguez, the back two that have barely been breached all year. Kim, who was our saviour in the last Champions League final, finds Del Vecchio. And Marco M. Pali A man we brought in to come off the bench in big moments has scored in the biggest one and has sent us through into a extra time period here in the Champions League. 91st minute, straight after the full-time break. El Sayed, the wonder kid from Egypt, Marco Empali, Will Bellon, and Seaman saves. It was a moment in extra time for us to be full of glory. Jacko, the centre-back, to take the corner. Whips it front stick, doesn't find his man. El Sayed and Jacko will produce one more moment here. Marino heads, and that is also going to be high and wide. Time ticking, 95th minute. Extra time is in full effect. We're on the heavy press here, and can we win it high up the park? And we do, with Del Vecchio, who's moved to left back. Goes on a run. Will Bellon. Marco Empali hits the post. El Sayed with the moment. He hits the post. Dosu with the moment. Seaman saves. What a passage of football. How has Paris 13 Atletico not scored? We've hit the woodwork twice. Seaman's pulled off a world-class save. And Dosu, who has been here for over 10 years, I reckon, by this point of the save, had a chance off the bench to be the hero. And instead, it is a moment where we rue what could have been. Dosu's ball in. It's cleared away. Marco Empali, who sent us to extra time, will recycle. And Bellion and Guaita going on a run. Can he cut it? He does, and it's Empali, and he scores. Marco Empali, a man we brought in 2 years ago for these moments, has produced the biggest one. Another highlight though, Dosu now. We're all over him, and we put it over the bar. And that will bring us into the second period of extra time. Alvarez, Carvalho, one last chance maybe for Bayern Munich late in this Champions League final, but it's cut out, and Fernando, the captain, is on the break. Marco off the bench has two. Will he get a third maybe? He doesn't. He fires it back to Dosu. Marino, a chance to seal it. It was a pretty poor finish. In the 119th minute, Bayern had one last gasp. Musiala, Cisse, Carvalho, Jacko flies in. What an inspired tackle. Ball back stick, and Kim denies Vinicius Jr. at his elder stage a chance to head home. And Kim with a great claim. And there is only a handful of seconds left on the clock. Fernando goes long, but Cisse will put one in the channel, and Sion will do enough. Vinny won't win that one, but there's one last chance. It's over the bar, and it's going to finish Bayern Munich 1, Paris Atletico 13-2. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the celebrations, but that is how we won the Champions League. That is how we won the Champions League. It was absolutely brilliant. If you look at the match stats, though, we would have been livid not winning this one. 10 shots, 4 on target, XG of 0.89. Possession was even. Have a look at the Paris 13 Atletico stats. 25 shots, 10 on target, 3.95 XG. We had 10 corners as well. Yeah, how on earth did we not go and win this game? By at least more goals. But we won it. The Champions League was done. And now we're going to go and recap the squad, what it looked like, and how we built the best team in the world, and what the star ratings, who were the key men. We're going to look at all of it now at the end of this video. So on screen is the players filtered by ability. As you can see here, who's the best ability. And straight off the bat, Hakim Guaita, who came in a few seasons before we gave up the save for 14 million from FC Twente, proved to be the best player that we had. 5-star player, great right wing back, was left and right foot strong, and have a look how world class he was as well. Other players, Emil Jacko we just saw, Matteo Milo did not have the best Champions League season this year. We only got 6 goals, but had better years previously, but still arguably one of our best. Hector Inguez was here for a long time. We picked him up in 29-30 for 7 mil and was a big part of why we're defensively so solid. He played centre back for many a year. He's got 69 caps for Argentina. He is that next level of centre back, mentally and physically, just really solid at 6'1". Luis Fernando in the same ilk, here since 2031. Always played either in the middle of the park when we played 4-3-3 or up front as the more creative striker in the two. Had periods where he was absolutely clinical. Lots of great match average ratings there at 7.5 and 7.4. And have a look at some of his stats here just quickly. And I encourage you guys to pause throughout this little piece at the end. Just really, really world class. He played up here. We're going to go through what the system looked like for the final as well so you guys can maybe use it. But yeah, absolutely outrageous was Luis Fernando. Del Vecchio, we did see that we signed him not too long ago, only 5.5 million, and he developed into a guy that was outrageous for us. Just in the hole, 130 million of value, just outrageous, physically a monster, determination great, marking, tackling, loved the long shot even though he only had 11 long shots. You saw a few of them in this. Just someone that never knew how to give up, knew how to win the ball back and knew how to get it recycled and back moving forward throughout the lines. We also could play him at left back naturally too, and he was a very good footballer for us as well. You know, and this is the thing, we had a Pjanovic, who yet again we have not mentioned at all in this save. You know, came in when the YouTube series was around for 9 million and just developed into this good of a winger. You know, we weren't even playing him up front, we're playing him out wide as an inside forward. Just determination, finishing, 6 foot so he could win headers at the backstick, technique. Was absolutely brilliant. Marco Empali, the hero of the final, yet again, just absolutely superb. Great signing this to prove out to be. Suelo was here for many a seasons too, since 29-30. As you can see, we signed Inguez, Fernandez, and Suelo around the same period. Played left back for us for every single season. Was absolutely fantastic and one of the best players in his position in the save. Will Bellon, you guys saw us sign. Kim was here from an early stage back in 29-30 too. So, you know, back in 29-30/30-31, we had Fernandez, we had Inguez, we had Kim, we had Suelo all come to the football club. And these were guys that we highlighted back when the save was still on YouTube that were going to come and produce us world-class talent. And that's the biggest tip here is identify guys that you're like, if he develops, he could win me the Champions League. And that's how you take yourself from being a really good side in Europe to that best side. You bring these players in, you get them playing, you get them developing, and when they hit their potential, they are going to be world beaters and take you to the Champions League final. Look at their ages, 29, you know, exactly, you know, when you're looking at Fernando, he's 29 as well. When you're looking at Inguez, he's 26, a little bit younger. Yeah, all these guys kind of came out the same. You know, Sergio Moreno came and played centre defensive mid for us, 6 caps at 21 to really develop this actual season. Was more of a backup player for us up until this year. You know, played a lot last season to be fair as well, but yeah, really came into his own this season too, than Sergio Moreno. Other players that we have to speak about though, other players that I'm sure people want me to speak about is Magnus Finneson, who was at the football club since 2031-32. Outrageous talent. 6'4", can play up front, can play out wide. He just knew how to score. You saw a couple of his goals against Spurs, just knew how to do the incredible with his right or left foot. And there was many times on stream he was scoring absolute worldie of a goal. And even though he had 10 long shots, he just knew how to do it mentally. What a footballer. And the other one that we have to talk about is Dosu, the original. He's requested to leave and I'm glad we won him a Champions League. We bought him back in 25-26. So if you go watch the playlist, you will see the journey of Dosu. And we managed to win him a Champions League. 91k we bought him for from Generation Foot in Senegal. He took us from League 2 to League 1, through the ranks, through to winning the league title, through to winning the French Cup, and he was on the pitch and nearly scored in the Champions League final that we ended up winning, and he never performed poorly. He does want to leave in the game, which is a little bit upsetting, but a physical specimen and someone that was really good. In terms of the system that we played, this is the 4-2-4 we used. So we used a sweeper keeper with 2 defending centre-backs on ball playing defend on cover, with 2 complete wing-backs on support because they were just so good at getting up and down. Del Vecchio and Bellion played defensive midfielder on support, with 2 inside forwards on support with Pjanovic and Finson, with Luis Fernando being the more creative centre forward and Milo being the advanced forward. For those wondering about player roles, I'll click through them now just so you guys can see them as well if you do want this tactic. Yeah, look, in the end, it was, your meta sort of tactic with a lot of player roles and stuff. And in terms of the mentality, attacking, passing into space, looking for the underlap, which was really overpowered in FM24, work the ball into the box and playing for set pieces, taking shorter kicks to the centre back because we had really good ball playing defenders, look to counter at every opportunity. And of course, as always on FM, just get in the opposition's face. And you saw our turnover rate because everyone was so good in their work rate. Prevent the short distribution, get stuck in, absolute fantastic shape. And when you look at the star ratings, outside of Finnison, everyone else is a 4-star player or better. And that is a hallmark of a world-class squad. And that is the story of how we built a side in France that toppled PSG, became the best team in France, and then grew into being the best team in the world. I thank you for watching. If you made it this far, hit the subscribe button down below. There's going to be more FM26 content. Not as much as this sort of storytelling longer form, unless you leave me a comment that you prefer this type of video. Historically, we're actually someone like with the playlist that I'm going to link here for the full Paris 13 Atletico playlist. Where we actually come in while we're live and actually record a video with the live stream around and produce it as like a non-league to legend sort of format where it's an episode of a big game, explain what's going on, etc. But if you guys want to see more storytelling, more longer form stuff like this, let me know as well. It is a little bit harder to create this sort of format and content. I'm not as good as Tom FM, and I don't want to be, but he does it the best, the longer form sort of storytelling way. I'm very much someone that is plug in, play, chop up the footage, put it out there for you guys on YouTube to watch. It's not my main job, this, but, I'm hoping you guys enjoy the content all the same. But from Damo, from everyone here at Paris 13 Atletico, so from Milo, from Fernandez, from Del Vecchio, from Honeyhall, from Ingles, from Jacko, from Suelo, and most importantly, from Dosu. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the journey. Glad I could bring you a conclusion to this save. And I'll see you guys for another Football Manager video as we're gearing up for FM26.